We're delighted to welcome our first resource person. And before I invite her, a small rules of housekeeping. Everyone, all the participants who will be present on those three on the today and the next 2 days, you'll be given a feedback link at the end, and you have to submit that feedback link. And those of you who are present for these 3 days, you'll be getting an e-certificate. We expect postgraduate students from these premier institutions to be extremely interactive. So please go ahead, raise your hands and ask questions and discuss with these eminent resource persons. I have the pleasure of introducing one of our most well-known and senior-most journalists from this part of the country, Ms. Monideepa Banerjie, who's an independent journalist who in her career with newspapers and television over the last 40 years from Kolkata has become a familiar name and face across the country. In the last 28 years as a journalist with NDTV, she has covered momentous events from the Maoist movement at Lalgarh to the sainthood of Mother Teresa at the Vatican. While her passion is covering political developments, it doesn't end there. She has reported on burning issues that confront women and children, healthcare, and of course the pandemic, and even on the vast and diverse cultural and social landscape of Bengal and the Northeast. She's a graduate of Lady Brabourne College, a Chevening Scholar from the United Kingdom, and a Fulbright Hubert Humphrey Fellow, during which she spent a year in the United States in 2001-2002, all of which contributed to making her an incisive, fair and balanced journalist, and I dare say brand Monideepa Banerjie. And I know how seriously she takes this session, and I have seen the work she puts behind putting up this these sessions, and that explains why her journalism is so very impactful even after all these years, and in the midst of all this cacophony, I dare say. So thank you, Monideepa Di, for everything, for your support, and I have the pleasure of handing you over for the next 1 hour.
Thank you for having me on this program. It's been a pleasure and a great learning for me. I thank all the dignitaries who were participating in the inauguration, and all the students. Welcome. Thank you for coming in and spending an hour with me on this online workshop on journalism. Dr. Pandey, if I may ask, has the PPT reached you?
Yeah, it's there. So Devan will just, do you want to start it right away?
No, I mean, yeah, he can put on slide 1 and we can proceed if we may.
Yes,
okay. There you are. Lovely. I mean, this is something I'm doing for the first time. So if there are some issues cropping up, please excuse. I'm sure things will get better as and when. So let's get on with this. We have, I believe, an hour, and I want to sort of not talk for more than half an hour maybe. And then I'd love questions, comments, and thoughts on the issue. So hello and welcome to all of you students. I think there are almost 60 of you out there, and I'm very pleased about that. And straight into the subject, reporting on social issues. Now, when I have to write a bio these days, a resume, I say I'm a journalist whose primary area of interest is politics. I also cover social issues. You heard Dr. Pandey just introduce me in exactly those words. But as I was preparing for this workshop, I realized it's a mistake, that it should be the other way around. So henceforth, I shall describe myself as a journalist whose primary interest is social issues affecting ordinary lives, ordinary people, and the impact of political parties, leaders, and their ideologies will come next. So first, social issues affecting people, and then we'll see what political parties are doing about it, and so on. So I'm going to have to rewrite my bio. Because as a journalist, my primary focus, I think, and that's why I really came into the profession, must be the people. And whatever journalism I do must be an attempt to make a difference to their lives for the better. I hope you'll agree with me over there, and I hope that is why you are here today. attending this workshop. If you could please change the slide. So what is social reporting? What are we talking about when we say social reporting? There are many definitions, but I don't want to go by the dictionary. I have a set of questions, and I hope you can see them on the slide. And, please say yes or no as answers to these questions, so I have some idea what really is going on with your lives. When was the last time you had a dry day at home, which means no running water in the taps? You could put your hand up, or you could write in the chat box. Did someone in your family get COVID? Did they have trouble getting an RT-PCR test done? Did they find a hospital bed, or did they not? Is any member of your family specially abled or physically challenged? What services are they able to use, to help them in their lives? And finally, has there been an occasion in your life during the lockdown when, you've got yourself a courier package has arrived, you are unable to accept it, maybe you've gone out for some reason, and your domestic help cannot take it because she can't sign her name, and your courier package has gone back. I mean, these are things that have been happening to all of us, but the root issue in the last question that I cited was illiteracy. The domestic help cannot read or write. Illiteracy is a social issue that must be reported on. Facilities for the physically challenged, also something the state must do something about. COVID in the family, patients, RT-PCRs, hospital beds. What we are talking about is the health infrastructure. And again, the service that the government should be giving to the citizens. And as for the dry day at home, can you imagine that there are thousands and thousands of women, men, who have to walk for miles to fetch water from a common village well or a pump? You don't have to go to a village or far from Kolkata or far from your homes in Malda, Purulia, or North Bengal somewhere. You just have to see in your own para perhaps. You will see Mohilara দাঁড়িয়ে আছে বালতি নিয়ে ঘন্টার পর ঘন্টা to get drinking water. This is also a social issue that you should be reporting on. This is what social issues reporting is all about. Life, the problems that are thrust at us, problems that remain unsolved, and raising these issues before relevant authorities to get action, to get them addressed, is what we are doing as journalists every day. And that's what I hope you all will do as well. If you could change the slide, please, Debayan. So when you report on issues that lead to any kind of discrimination or inequality or poverty, illiteracy, ill health, you are doing social reporting. You are doing journalism. If you feel that these issues are not your problem, that they don't excite you, bother you, then perhaps you should consider a different profession. I have listed some of the issues that are crying for media attention and just not getting enough of it. I think, do you have the slide, Debayan, with caste system? A whole list. No, I think you've gone too far out. Would you just go back a couple of slides?
Manushree, please see this. If it doesn't work on Devan's system, you please take over.
Can I do that? Yeah, this is the one. Social issues. So these are the various social issues that we should be focusing on. This is the kind of social issue reporting that, the times really demand of us, the kind of, reporting, the kind of journalism that will make a difference to people's lives. Now, if we could just please go to the next slide, because there is the number 13 issue that I have highlighted, and that is agricultural distress. Now, this I have put separately. Could we just go to the next slide, or can I do it myself? I'm not so sure. No, I can't do it. Oh, I've lost it. Anyway, agriculture is a huge, huge issue because somehow agriculture is rural India and it just doesn't get the kind of attention it deserves. And I will tell you that when this whole farm agitation was going on up near Delhi, and there were agitations going on even here in Bengal and other parts of the country, I mean, I can't tell you that I was not alone, I will tell you that, but there were so many journalists, we just couldn't understand what the issues are, why the farm laws are being protested against by so many farmers across the country and for a whole year. Because it was not our reality. It took us a lot of effort, took me a lot of effort and time to try and understand what the whole issue was. Simply because, they're not our reality. I'm not a farmer. I don't have a farmer in the family. So I don't know. The whole point of reporting on social issues is to identify what is affecting ordinary people and try and get a handle on them, understand them, and then write or have documentaries or news reports that will somehow make the government sit up, take notice, and listen to the farmer's point of view. Why are social issues not covered so much as they should be, which is why we are talking about it today. And that's because it is so unfashionable. And I think we need to move a slide. Unfashionable simply because people just don't want to do it. They would rather do much more exciting things like, there are some top issues that people like to focus on. And I must tell you a little story over here, that when I was in NDTV, I'd get a lot of interns. And these interns, they would come and I'd ask them, what is your area of interest? Now, I'm telling you, and please believe me, that when I asked interns this question, 1 out of, say, 10 would say, I want to cover politics. 2 out of the 10 would say, I want to cover sports. The rest 7 interns out of 10 who approached me, they would say, we want to be an entertainment. So if you could just switch this and go, move the slides out, the really fashionable thing to cover is politics. Everybody wants to rub shoulders with political powers. And then there is sports, also hugely exciting. Your Sachin Tendulkars and your Sania Mirza, exciting people to track. And I don't grudge anybody the fact that they are interested in this and they would like to be journalists in those particular fields. And of course, then there is entertainment, film stars. I mean, they are the eyeball grabbers, the page turners. We are so interested in them, which is fine. But they are the fashionable things people want to do. I have never had an intern come and tell me, ma'am, I am interested to become a journalist because I want to look at what's happening with the Dalits in the country, how the dowry system is getting worse despite education, and how alcoholism, drug addiction are becoming huge problems and really hurting the social structure in the country. This just hasn't happened. So I'm hoping that you students will someday go to intern and say, I want to report on social issues. I hope this exercise here today will help in reaching that target. If you could change slide, please, to 9, slide 9 perhaps. So few journalists have done a better job on social reporting than Mr. P. Sainath. He is a veteran journalist about our generation, and he won the Magsaysay Award in 2007. and wrote a book, which was my Bible, really. It's called Everybody Loves a Good Drought. I really strongly recommend that you buy it and read it. Even today, he's doing amazing work, mostly in the area of rural reporting. He runs an organization called PARI, P-A-R-I, which is People's Archive of Rural India. Again, suggest look it up on the internet and see the kind of work they are doing. They are doing life-changing work. If you could change to slide 12, please. In an interview a few years ago, Mrs. Sainath he had said, lamented that the urbanization of the reporting media and the marginalization of rural issues. The whole reporting business, the reporting culture in India was becoming very urban, pro-urban, and rural issues were getting completely marginalized. And he put out this statistic that I think you will see in one of the slides here. And that is all the national newspapers, if you scan them very well, you will find that all these newspapers which come out of New Delhi, 67% of the news in those 12 pages or 16 are about New Delhi, are about news in the national capital. So if there's a little accident there, that'll get covered. If a building falls down in Delhi, that'll get covered, certainly. But there is a slant. The same little road accident, which will be covered if it happens in Delhi, will not get covered if it's happened in Kolkata or Chennai or Bangalore, or Thiruvananthapuram, or the smaller cities. So this is the bias he has commented on that 67% of stories in the national newspapers are about the national capital. Village stories from the villages, that content is just 0.18%. It's utterly shocking. And then he goes on to say that during prime time, only 61% of the news is related to agriculture. So there's virtually no coverage of almost 70% of the rural population of India these days in the media, and that is of huge concern. Please change to slide 13. Why is this happening? He says, and we have to hear what Mr. Sainath says. He says agricultural journalists are becoming extinct. At one time in newspapers, we would have business journalists, sports journalists, economy journalists, journalists covering the BJP, the Trinamool, the Congress, or whatever. But there's to at one time also be agricultural journalists who would follow what's going on in the agricultural sector, but they have become extinct. So 75% or 70% of Indians are now forgotten, invisible. A few agriculture reporters who are still around, they sit in the agricultural ministry in Delhi. Ground reporting is minimal. It is not extinct yet, but minimal. Not only that, Mr. Sainath also commented on this other thing, which is very interesting. If you could go to slide 14, please. There is a rural-urban divide when it comes to reporting news. For instance, the focus is on urban issues, as I said, and rural gets the short shrift. Even in the urban sphere, there are divisions. There are layers of coverage. In the urban situation, in the case of, say, cultural events, we will find that Mumbai and Bollywood get the maximum space, whether it's on TV or in print or digital. Tollywood from Kolkata will not get that kind of coverage. If there is a musical event happening, again, a program by a Bollywood singer will get much more coverage than somebody from, say, Chennai or somebody even from Lucknow, or, if there's a sort of classical music event, that will definitely take second place to a Bollywood music evening. So these divides exist. And the question then comes up is, why are these divides there? And this is again in Mr. Sainath's words, and I swear by some of it. He says that media is only reporting today on issues that will earn money for the media house they work for. So that is the interesting thing, that, so business, glamour, politics, these things earn revenue. Therefore, the focus is on these issues. A farmer doesn't advertise, a business house does. Business house advertisements are often, put out after a nudge from political parties or political leaders. And therefore, the interest in reporting on businesses and politics, and of course, glamour, film stars and movie releases and cinema, all kind of stuff. Simply because, the eyeball grabbers, people love listening about what's going on in this glamour world. So people will watch more TV if you are showing that kind of stuff. People will pick up magazines that have covers with beautiful people on them. So, so glamour world is hugely attractive. And so, they draw eyeballs, and which means they draw revenue, which means advertisements. And therefore, this segmentation has happened. Media reporting only on issues that will earn money for the media house. As I said, farmers don't advertise. Rural India doesn't advertise, and so they disappear from the news pages. But there is good news, and that is there are small changes taking place. I don't know if Snehashish is there still, but this morning I heard of a whole range of rural reporting initiatives that are happening at the grassroots level. Have you heard of a documentary film called Writing with Fire? I'd love a show of hands. And how many of you have heard of Khabar Leheria? If you could please change to slide 16. Yeah, are there people who have heard of these?
Yes, Moni, just to tell you that I'm there.
Lovely. So, this morning we were at this, workshop, and over there were so many people telling wonderful stories about the kind of rural initiatives that are being taken. So, there is hope. So, Khabar Leheria, for those who haven't heard about it, or Writing with Fire, for those who haven't heard about it, Khabar Leheria is this newspaper out of Bundelkhand in Uttar Pradesh. It is an all-women's team. Many of them are Dalits. So after being sidelined in mainstream media for years and years, these women got fed up. So they, made their own newspaper. I think it was a weekly to start with, but during the Uttar Pradesh elections recently, they even went digital. So their reporters, young girls, trained properly, took out their cell phones and they went out shooting and reported great stuff, and all woman stuff, hugely impressive. And then, of course, two young filmmakers, Rinku Thomas and Shushmit Ghosh, they went and made this documentary called Writing with Fire, and it got nominated for the Oscars. It didn't win, but certainly it's a story worth celebrating. And if we can get to slide 17, we have an official trailer there that I'd love the students to see. It's beautiful. Can we play it?
वाह मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। हमने अभी तक वो फोन चलाया भी नहीं है, डर लग रहा है कि कहीं बिगड़ ना जाए, कहीं कुछ ना हो जाए। ऐसा समय ही आ गया है कि उसके बगैर हम नहीं मतलब पीछे रह जाएंगे। मुझसे तो पूछते हैं तो मैं भी पूछ लेती हूँ कि आप कौन से कास्ट के हैं। अब वो कहते हैं मैं ब्राह्मण हूँ तो मैं भी कह देती हूँ मैं भी ब्राह्मण हूँ।
जो खबर लिखनी होती है उसमें पैसा नहीं लगता है,
इसलिए हमसे उतनी ही बात करें जितना समझ में आए, उससे ओवर नहीं।
हमारे प्रदेश में दलित औरतों का पत्रकार के रूप में कोई सोच भी नहीं सकता। 14 साल में हमने इस मानसिकता को काफी हद तक बदला है।
इन दमंग लोगों ने क्या किया, उसको पत्थर मारकर हत्या कर दी और किसी पर भरोसा नहीं। एक लहरियां ही ऐसे न्याय दिला सकती है।
एक हैरानी वाली बात है कि थाने को पता नहीं, पुलिस स्टेशन को पता नहीं है
क्योंकि मैं उस जगह से हूँ। मारू है, मेरे लिए तो बहुत ही रिस्की है।
कभी 11 बजे, कभी 12 बजे, कोई टाइमिंग है नहीं है।
इस जगह पे मैं हूँ, उस जगह पे अगर आप होते तो क्या करते?
पहले अपना काम बाद में देखते।
मुझे तो नहीं लगता है। जो आपके साथ संगठन है वो देश के भविष्य में किस तरह भागीदारी में है?
संघ शक्ति कलयुग है, संगठन है, संगठन में शक्ति होती है।
डर लग रहा दीदी अभी तो। खबरें कहाँ गई? कोई खबर दिख ही नहीं रही है। जो हमारी कवरेज होगी वो अन्य मीडिया से बहुत अलग होगी।
हर कोई को जानना चाहिए कि हाँ हम पत्रकार थे, एक महिला पत्रकार, और किस तरह की पत्रकारिता हमने की है।
So there you are. And if you could go to the next slide, which is my favorite, and that is how to win a Pulitzer Prize. I mean, that must be the dream for every journalist, how to win a Pulitzer. I haven't won one, so I really can't say I know the brass tacks, how to do it. But here are some do's and don'ts, some tips you might find handy when you go out into the field. And you go out into the field as a social issues reporter. Pick an issue that somehow resonates with you or touches you, or something that you really care about. I mean, if there is somebody in your family with a disability, you should pick up that issue. If there is a sister that you have who is not getting married because of caste issues, pick up the caste issue. There is alcoholism, there is drugs, there is, child trafficking, child marriage. A number of issues are huge. For me, a constant is my domestic helps at home. Every time, I talk to them, every story, every woman that I have had working in my house for the last 20 years, every one of them has been a victim of domestic violence. So if I were to pick a story, an issue that I want to follow up, I would pick up domestic violence against women. So tell the story from, first of all, research. Research the subject. There's no, two ways about that. You just have to do some solid research. Get numbers, be specific. Don't say 100, or don't say many women were victims of domestic violence in India in the last 5 years. You have to get more specific. You have to have a number. You have to have a time period in which this happened. These issues just make your story so much stronger. So do research, have it ready and handy. Many journalists, including me, I will tell you, we are sometimes just plain lazy and just get away with not doing enough research, which makes our story, at the end of the day, very weak. One example that I'd like to cite and I'd like you to remember is that to tell a good story, to make your story human and personalized, go from micro to macro. So say you're doing a report on domestic violence, find somebody. I would find a domestic help of mine. I would go home with her to her house. I would show what kind of life she is leading. And of course, I can't show domestic violence, but I can talk about her circumstances. So I have, sort of presented the problem through this one woman's story. And then I move on to a bigger picture. And that is how you connect with people. Somebody watching a documentary or a 2-minute story on domestic violence may not really be excited about it. But when he sees a person and hears that person's story, then somehow you start building connects. So go from micro to macro. Remember, you are from a privileged background. You probably have never faced domestic violence in your life. You haven't seen it happening to anybody in your family. So you are very alien to that subject. So the way you deal with the report, the way you deal with your subject, you have to be extremely humble. You have to be extremely empathetic. You have to empathize with your subject. Some reporters, and I have seen this, it happens. I'm sure I have done it also at some time or the other. Some of us go into a village and, we sort of do a story on some horror tragedy that has happened over there. And our attitude is like a white sahib come to rescue a native. Something that, we have historically been familiar with. And that is something, a journalist should never, never do. It'll just kill your story without you even knowing why that happened. Get multiple sides of the story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then get data to give your story teeth. If you do a wonderful story, but there's no data to back your story, then it's pointless. Nobody will take you seriously. Just as examples, there are two popular examples that I cite. One is Lokhi Bhandar. Now, I was a white woman going to look at this indigenous problem of women rushing to the government outlets where they were giving 500 rupees a month to women for the first time. Lokhi Bhandar. I'm sure all of you have heard about it. I went there wondering, 500 rupees? Why would the women come there? And then I went and I saw hundreds of women, not just lining up to get the 500 rupees, but stampeding, jumping over each other, pushing each other down, pushing the lady in front of her down, to get to the, head of the queue first. There was a desperation about the way they were trying to get that money, 500 rupees per month. It was astonishing to me because I spent 500 rupees without much thought. So that's when I felt like I was going in with a white man syndrome. And I had to stop and check myself and find out what is it that makes these women so desperate for 500 rupees. Some of them, there was a lady I met, young lady, she had a master's in some subject. She's, spoke fluently in English. So I said, what are you doing here? Why are you applying for 500 rupees? She said, well, they're giving it, so why shouldn't I apply? But then she went on to say that, if I get that 500 rupees, maybe I can file a job application, do the Xeroxing, the couriering. I can do all that without asking my father for money. Then there's another woman who said that my husband has broken his leg. He is a farm laborer. So if I, don't earn some money, we have no money in the house since he's sitting at home and not being able to work. So that's why they're desperate for 500 rupees. But check, because I also found amazingly shocking stories about how a mother had come and lined up for that 500 rupees because she would have to give it to her son, who was a drug addict and got violent because if he didn't get his fix. So she was going to take that money and give it to her son to feed his addiction. There are two sides of the story. There are some people who are misusing the money that they get, and some people who need it so desperately. So get two sides. The other example, of course, I have is that story about Kunnasri. I had gone to a village, I think somewhere in Shingur, and this was after the Shingur movement, and Kunnasri was firmly entrenched, very popular program. I went there and there was a farmer, very articulate, and he got talking about this, that, and the other. You have to let people talk to really find a story, okay? So he was talking about a whole lot of things when suddenly he saw a little far away two girls in cycles, in uniforms, standing, and then as he was pointing at them, two boys in uniform on cycles, they came along. And they started chatting, like young people do. And that's when this old man kind of exploded. And he said, look, This is what is Kanyasri is doing to our social fabric. Girls are getting money in their hand, and the social fabric is breaking, falling apart. Girls don't want to marry. They want to study. And then when they do marry, sometimes they earn more money than their husbands, and the husbands are angry. So, there is a social fallout of these young girls getting the Kanyasri money. Their lives are changing for the better. And somehow it was disturbing the social equilibrium in many parts of rural Bengal. But there was also another problem that he pointed at, and perhaps that is also factual. And that is, he said, these girls are, taking the money from Kanyasri and then spending it on an expensive mobile phone. So get various parts, get various, versions, reactions to stories. Give multiple sides of the story, like I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then you really have a good chance of getting a Pulitzer. If you could get to the next slide. I have prepared this slide, and it is slide number 19, which is a very important one, and that is always protect the people you are talking about. There may be many cases when people don't want to give their names. They don't want to reveal their identities. If there is a rape case or a molestation of a child, domestic violence, children being trafficked, there's only one mantra: protect the victim. And I'm not just appealing to you to do that. I'm also telling you it is the law. We forget sometimes. In our excitement, we will reveal identities, and that can be so damaging to the person you're talking about, the victim of some horrific crime, hugely damaging for them and hugely, unwanted, because it exposes them to dangers. And then there is the issue of the law. The law says you can't. I have made those mistakes despite years and years of experience. I mean, not very long ago, I was reporting on a child molestation case in a school in Kolkata. And, I went and stood in front of the school and I reported, and I got very sharply pulled up for that because, I didn't notice, honestly. But in my background, you could see the school gate and you could see the name of the school. And that is just not allowed. That is because, you can show nothing that can reveal a victim's identity. So therefore, this is one golden rule of all kinds of reporting, certainly in the area of social issues reporting as well. I've taken 40 minutes, and I'm not going to take a single moment more because I want to hear from you. What I have to say is that, I hope I have not wasted your time. I hope you'll be able to take away some elements from this 40-minute presentation that will make you an intern different from the ones that came to me. An intern who will go and tell, the seniors in office that, yes, I want to intern with you, and I want to intern to learn about social reporting and not just glamour, glitz, business, politics, sports. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing. I mean, there are so many reporters who are doing a fabulous job in these fields, but social issues are like, in an egg. The yolk of journalism is social reporting. The inside, the yellow inside in an egg, in a boiled egg. The white is the rest. So I'm going to ask Devayan to please change slides and appeal to you to be a real journalist. And then if we could move to the next slide, I urge you, be a real journalist. Do not be a paper tiger. Can you see that slide? I don't know which slide you all are seeing, but I want to go to the last two. Devayan, if you could. That's right. Be a real journalist and not a paper tiger. Thank you. I'm open to questions, comments, or anything else that you want to talk about.
I see Srijan Tudu has raised a hand. So please go ahead.
Sure. Srijan Tudu. I can hear you. Oh, there you are. Srijan, তুমি বাংলায় বলতে পারো কিন্তু। I'm absolutely great in Bangla. Anybody else? I can see some 50 people. 50 students. I wish I could see your names. Okay, I can see lots of names in the chat box. So is Dinobandhu Mahato achen ekhantaয়? Ba Deepa Singh? Ba Faiz Khan?
Srijan has
হ্যাঁ
raised
ম্যাম
your
দীনবন্ধু
দীনবন্ধু আছো? প্লিজ, তুমি কোথা থেকে? তুমি মালদা না পুরুলিয়া না কোথায়?
আমি পুরুলিয়া থেকে।
তুমি পুরুলিয়া থেকে? ওকে, আমি পুরুলিয়া অনেকবারই গেছি। তো তোমার যদি কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে, তুমি তো মাস্টার্স করছো তাই তো সাংবাদিকতা?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
তোমার কি মনে হয় তুমি কি নিয়ে কাজ করতে যাও? এই যে সোশ্যাল ইস্যুস এর কথা বললাম আমরা, তোমার কোন দিকে তোমার ইন্টারেস্ট? পুরুলিয়া তো প্রচুর লটস অফ ইস্যুস, এগ্রিকালচার একটা ইস্যু, এসসি এসটি একটা ইস্যু, ভায়োলেন্স ক্রাইম ইস্যু, মানে এগুলো সব সোশ্যাল ইস্যুস যেগুলো তোমাদের জীবনের উপর একটা ইম্প্যাক্ট নিশ্চয়ই রাখে।
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, ওই এগ্রিকালচার ইস্যু আছে, তারপর ও পানিরও ইস্যু আছে, জলীয়। হ্যাঁ।
তারপরে ভীষণ এখন তো পুরুলিয়ায় সাংঘাতিক গরম আর জলের কষ্ট, তাই তো?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম।
আমি দেখেছি মানে কয়েকটা জায়গায় এত কোনো চাষই করতে পারতো না এক সময়, একদম জল ছিল না, ইরিগেশন ছিল না, তাই না? এখন জানি না কি অবস্থা হয়েছে, perhaps it's better, কিন্তু I know that পুরুলিয়ায় এরকম একটা সাংঘাতিক জলের সংকট আছে, স্পেশালি ফর ফার্মিং। এগ্রিকালচারের জল পাওয়া যায় না, সেটা অনেক দিন ধরেই এরকম হয়ে পড়ে আছে। আই ডোন্ট নো তাতে খুব একটা ইমপ্রুভমেন্ট হয়েছে কিনা এত বছরে। Anybody else? Thank you, Dinabandhu.
থ্যাংক ইউ ম্যাম।
Student, it doesn't happen very regularly that we have such senior journalists interacting with you. So please use up the next 15 minutes to ask whatever you always wanted to ask a journalist, and please go ahead. I know there are students from IMC Dhenkanal as well who might not understand Bengali, so you can speak in Hindi also if you want. Please go ahead in English, Hindi or Bengali, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, Hindi is fine too. Hindi bhi bol sakte hain aap.
Yes, Lalit, go ahead, please.
सर टॉपिक से रिलेटेड पूछना है या फिर आउट ऑफ टॉपिक भी पूछ सकते हैं?
जो भी पूछ सकते हैं, कोई बात नहीं।
मैम, मेरा क्वेश्चन है कि मीडिया में जो पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर है उसको कैसे फेस कर सकते हैं, क्योंकि मैंने डिफरेंट जर्नलिस्ट का आंसर सुना है मैम, पर सेटिस्फाइड नहीं हूँ, क्योंकि जब एक पॉलिटिकल प्रेशर होता है उसको हम फेस, मतलब जब मीडिया में जाते हैं तो हमें देखने को मिलता है, और अगर हम इंडिपेंडेंटली अगर फ्रीली होकर, फ्री माइंड होकर अगर जर्नलिज्म करते हैं तो कहीं ना कहीं ये प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट करता है कि कहीं ना कहीं पॉलिटिशियन जो होते हैं वो प्रेशराइज करते हैं। तो उस सिचुएशन में हम किस तरीके से उस सिचुएशन को डील करें मैम, क्योंकि हमें अगर इंडिपेंडेंटली अगर अनबायस्ड होकर जर्नलिज्म भी करना है और उस प्रेशर को भी देखना है, फेस करना है, क्योंकि वो प्रेशर वो काफी टफ होता है।
बहुत ही ये प्रश्न किया आपने, ये बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट मुद्दा है, क्योंकि आजकल जो मीडिया का जो हालात हैं इंडिया में और बहुत सारे दूसरे देशों में भी, बहुत ही इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ कंसर्न कि ये मीडिया का काम हम खुलेआम नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। हमको बहुत मुश्किल से जो सच्चाई है, जो फैक्ट्स हैं, वो निकालना बहुत ही चैलेंजिंग हो गया है। बट मीडिया का वही एक चैलेंज है और वही एक मंत्र है कि आप प्रश्न पूछते रहें। अब यहाँ इस कारण तो ऐसा भी हुआ है, आप जानते हैं जर्नलिस्ट मारे गए हैं दे हैव बीन किल्ड। और भयानक तरीके से हमने देखा है कुछ राज्यों में जर्नलिस्ट की मौत हो गई, खून करवा दिया गया। दिस इज अ रियल प्रॉब्लम, ये एक रियलिटी है। लेकिन जो मीडिया को करना होगा, और नहीं तो वो मीडिया ही नहीं रहेगा, एंड दैट इज अ पुश बैक। कोई तो जरूर मीडिया को प्रश्न उठाना पड़ेगा और रिस्क लेना पड़ेगा। जो एक चीज मीडिया कर सकती है ऐसे हालात में, और वो है एक मीडिया का जो एक यूनाइटेड फ्रंट, जैसे प्रेस क्लब्स हैं या जर्नलिस्ट यूनियंस हैं। कुछ कुछ समय ऐसा कुछ हालत होता भी है कि आपने कोई स्टोरी आप करना चाहते हैं, आप कुछ आगे बढ़ भी गए हैं, लेकिन फिर आपका जो मीडिया हाउस है वो अचानक बोलेगा कि आप मत करो, बिकॉज कोई ना कोई इंटरेस्ट में समस्या होगा, इसलिए मीडिया हाउस बोल दिया कि आप मत करो। तो आप क्या करेंगे उस समय? आई थिंक ये जो जर्नलिस्ट का जो एक यूनिटी है, एक जर्नलिस्ट के जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं, उनको मिलके काम करना चाहिए और काम करना पड़ेगा, और कर भी रहे हैं। देयर आर मेनी इंस्टेंसेस जहाँ पे कोई मीडिया वाला शायद नौकरी चला गया क्योंकि वो एक स्टोरी परस्यू कर रहा है जो उनका हाउस नहीं चाहता है करे वो। तो ऐसे हालात में नौकरी भी चला गया, then what do? Then you have to have a unity among journalists. You have to go to court. ये जो देखिए ना, वो लड़का जो हाथरस गया था, वो केरला का लड़का, क्या नाम था, जैसे कप्पन, वो शायद अभी भी जेल में पड़ा हुआ है। वहां पे उसको अरेस्ट कर लिया, उसका मीडिया हाउस कुछ कर नहीं पा रहा है, वो जेल में बैठा हुआ है। अब बहुत महीने हो गए हैं, शायद 1 साल के आसपास। सो ये तो समस्याएं हैं ही, ये हर जगह पे है, हर देश में है, और ये तो फेस करना पड़ेगा। इट्स अ चैलेंज, और द ओनली आंसर रियली टू दिस, जो एक हल हो सकता है, एंड दैट इज यूनिटी इन द मीडिया। ये स्टोरी जब आप अकेला करने जा रहे हो और आपका नौकरी चला गया क्योंकि आपका हाउस ने बोल दिया नहीं होना है, ये नहीं करना है, तब अगर दूसरे मीडिया हाउसेस उस मुद्दा को उठाएं तो जरूर एक प्रेशर क्रिएट कर सकते हैं हम। दिस इज द ओनली वे फॉरवर्ड, और तो मुझे कुछ लग नहीं रहा है ये समस्या का हल कैसे होगा। थैंक यू, दैट इज अ गुड क्वेश्चन ललित, बहुत important point था।
Abhijit Chetri, you go ahead first and then followed by Subroto.
Sure.
Ma'am, I live in North Bengal, and it's a like we have Indo-Nepal border, and there are like many human trafficking cases are going on in the border sites and all. During my school days, I was also associated with some NGOs who works for anti-human trafficking and all. But somehow, what I have seen, though there are like lots of schemes for the women's and the girls in our society, but somehow, like whenever I do research on that, but we are lacking to provide a good facilities to the girls who have been saved from the traffic. Like suppose for an example, अगर कोई लड़की ब्रोथेल से जब बचकर सिक्योर होकर जब घर में आती तो समाज उसे एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर पाती है। जो उसके ऊपर बहुत मेंटल प्रेशर ऑलरेडी, जब वो उस सिचुएशन में फंसी हुई थी तब भी बहुत सारा मेंटल प्रेशर उसने फेस किया है। फिर घर लौटने के बाद भी उसको बहुत सारा मेंटल प्रेशर उसे फेस करना पड़ता है। उसके अलावा भी लाइक होता है ना, अगर चलो मेंटली अगर स्ट्रांग भी होते तो फिर उसके लिए कोई अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं रहता है। एंड व्हाट आई बिलीव लाइक उस तरह की स्टोरीज वगैरह ना काफी जर्नलिस्ट कवर करने के लिए अगर चाहते भी है तो फिर भी मतलब होता है ना, आइदर जस्ट बिकॉज जैसे आपने पहले भी कहा था कि बहुत सारे मीडिया हाउसेस जो है उन सारी चीजों को ध्यान नहीं देते, वो सिर्फ एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री या फिर एक फाइल ऑफ रिपोर्ट बनकर रह जाता है। ना ही कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज उनको लाइक ग्रो होने में हेल्प करती है, ना ही ऐसा कोई लाइक सिचुएशन अभी तक ऐसा मैंने लाइक खुद से नहीं देखा है लाइक मेरे एरिया में। बट लकीली आई मेड वन ऑफ द फेमस लेडी Miss Koirala in Nepal, and yeah, she's doing really like her organization Mighty Nepal is doing really good for all those लेडीज जिन्होंने ये सब ह्यूमन ट्रैफिकिंग वगैरह फेस किया है, एंड शी इज इवन प्रोवाइडिंग देम अ फ्री एजुकेशंस, एंड अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट शी इज ट्रेनिंग देम इन स्किल एजुकेशंस, एंड ऑल्सो दैट वो औरतें जो है घर में ना जाकर भी वहीं पर बैठकर दे आर अर्निंग from
Yeah.
all the skills and all, and even they are doing something for the society as well.
See,
But
you are already sharing a solution. But
yes,
what I can tell you from my experience is, and we have a lot of trafficking out of Bengal. The problem is a big one in this state. And मैंने किया हुआ है कुछ stories on trafficking. एक जो मुझे लैक्यूना मेरे तरफ से लगा कि हमको ये सिस्टम क्या है ये पता नहीं है। आप नालसा क्या है जानते हैं? सालसा क्या है जानते हैं? मैंने तो ये पहला सुना, नालसा सालसा ये सब क्या है। जब मैं ट्रैफिकिंग के ऊपर स्टोरी करने लगी तो आई स्टडीड द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, क्योंकि सरकार की तरफ से जो लीगली जो प्रोविजंस है वो हैं, जगह पे किया हुआ है, एक स्ट्रक्चर तैयार किया हुआ है कि अगर ऐसे ट्रैफिकिंग विक्टिम है उसका क्या हो सकता है, उसको क्या कॉम्पेंसेशन, किस तरीके से वो कोर्ट में अपना केस प्रेजेंट करेंगी, कौन उसका लॉयर रहेगा, सरकार की तरफ से लॉयर लगाया जाता है। सो ये जो जर्नलिस्ट के अंदर जो एक मुझे लगता है एक शॉर्टकमिंग है, मेरे में तो था ही, एंड दैट इज वी डोंट नो द सिस्टम। और अगर आप सिस्टम नहीं जानते हैं तो आप सोल्यूशन कैसे निकालोगे? सो आई थिंक जर्नलिस्ट ऑल्सो नीड टू एजुकेट देमसेल्व्स, बी एजुकेटेड। ये रोना धोना कि अरे ये लड़की तो आई है ट्रैफिक होके घर वापस आई है लेकिन उसको घर से निकाल दिया है, गांव से निकाल दिया है, ये अब ये कहानी अब खत्म करना पड़ेगा। आई रियली थिंक जर्नलिस्ट नीड टू बी मोर रिस्पॉन्सिबल, और उनको ये स्टोरी ऐसे तरीके से करना पड़ेगा सो दैट यू कैन वर्क टुवर्ड्स सोल्यूशन। एक महिला थी, उसके बारे में मैंने एक स्टोरी किया था, एंड अल्टीमेटली इस समय मैंने सीखा ये सालसा नालसा डालसा ये सब मैंने सीखा कि कोर्ट में क्या क्या बंदोबस्त है इन महिलाओं के लिए जो ट्रैफिक हो जाती है। सीख के मैं अपना क्रेडिट नहीं बोल रही हूँ, जो एनजीओ थे, जो लॉयर्स थे, जो जज था, ये मिलके उन्होंने एक सोल्यूशन किया, और वो महिला मुझे अभी भी याद है, शी गॉट द हाईएस्ट कॉम्पेंसेशन फ्रॉम द कोर्ट ऑफ 6 लाख रुपीज। मुझे तो बहुत थैंक यू बोला, तो मैंने कहा कि मैंने क्या किया, ये सिस्टम तो है, तैयार है, सरकार का ये ड्यूटी है कि अगर आप ट्रैफिक हो गए हो, अगर आपको वापस हम रेस्क्यू कर पाए हैं तो आपका जो जीविका का बंदोबस्त सरकार को करना पड़ेगा। That is the responsibility of the government. But you have to know the system to help this person to get her rights. तो ये मेरे लिए एक सबक था ये ट्रैफिकिंग के स्टोरी करते वक्त, कि हमको ये सिस्टम को जानना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो हम बेकार रोना धोना करते रहेंगे और कोई सोल्यूशन नहीं निकाल पाएंगे। सोल्यूशंस हैं, और हमारा जो ड्यूटी है एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है एज अ जर्नलिस्ट कि हम बस स्टोरी ना करें, बस स्टोरी ऐसी तरह करें ताकि हम जो एग्जिस्टिंग जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, जो सिस्टम है, उसका पूरा बेनिफिट आपके विक्टिम को, आपके सब्जेक्ट को आप दिला सकें।
मैम तो मैम क्या है ना, तो फिर ये सारी चीजें जो है जैसे आपने बताया सालसा नालसा एंड ऑल, आई थिंक इट्स आल्सो मेंशन इन आवर टेक्स्ट बुक so that it will be also beneficial, because syllabus में बहुत बार क्या होता है इन डेप्थ में कुछ नहीं रहता है, like just होता है ना, सपोज अगर आप डिफाइन मास कम्युनिकेशन भी अगर आप पढ़ते हो तो उसमें लाइक 2-3 जो हमारे कम्युनिकेशन साइंटिस्ट उनके डेफिनेशन रहता है और 2-3 एग्जांपल्स रहता है, नथिंग मोर देन
हर चीज स्कूल में या कॉलेज में नहीं पढ़ाया जा सकता है। ऑन द फील्ड जब आप जाओगे, you have to decide, okay, I'm doing story, ये story मैं कर रहा हूँ, इसको थोड़ा मैं research कर लूँ। I think that is your individual responsibility. आप मीडिया स्कूल में जाके you cannot be spoon fed everything. ये आपके इनिशिएटिव पर जरूर डिपेंड करता है। जैसे मुझे नहीं पता था, इतने सालों से मैं आई एम अ रिपोर्टर, आई हैड नो आइडिया क्या है नालसा सालसा, सीखना पड़ा मुझे एट माई ओन इनिशिएटिव। ये तो मैंने कष्ट किया कि बैठ के लॉयर्स के साथ मैं समझ पाई कि समस्या का हल कैसे निकल सकेगा। Any other
Thank you
question?
so much, ma'am.
तो
Like it was really helpful, and yeah, obviously I will like do more research and all, and I would love to be a better journalist in upcoming days.
I'm sure you will be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
we'll share more resources with you, Abhijit, and we'll keep these things in mind later on.
I can't hear you.
Subrata Mahato, can you please go ahead?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, আমার জেলা যেরকম ভাবে পুরুলিয়া জেলা, ফলে
Okay.
পুরুলিয়া, হ্যাঁ পুরুলিয়া যেরকম ভাবে আমার একদমই প্রত্যন্ত প্রান্তিক অঞ্চল, ফলে আমার এলাকায় যেরকম ভাবে সামাজিক ইস্যু, এইখানে যেরকম ভাবে এসসি এসটি ওবিসি থেকে মানে সমস্ত রকমের মানুষ, আমাদের সাধারণ মানুষ জীবনযাপন করে, ফলে আমাদের যেরকম ভাবে একটা কাস্ট সিস্টেমের যে একটা জাতিগত আগে যেরকম ভাবে একটা ছিল, ফলে এখন আমরা অনেকটাই এই চাইল্ড লেবার থেকে শুরু করে চাইল্ড ম্যারেজ নানা রকমের সামাজিক ইস্যু রয়েছে, বা এই সময়কালীন আমাদের পানীয় জলের সমস্যা একটা খুবই একটা ক্রিটিক্যাল কন্ডিশন, বা এই পরিস্থিতিতে আমাদের জেলায় যেরকম ভাবে যে আপনি মানে একটা ধর্ষণের কথা, যে হ্যাঁ ধর্ষণের ক্ষেত্রে যেরকম ভাবে কাকদ্বীপ থেকে কাটোয়া থেকে শুরু করে আমাদের পুরুলিয়া জেলাতেও এই ছোঁয়াচে রোগটা পৌঁছে গেছে, যেরকম ভাবে আমরা ফণী ঝড়ের দিন যেরকম ভাবে মনিকা মাহাতোর একটা আমরা ধর্ষণ করে খুন করা হয়েছে, আমরা সেই জায়গায় যেরকম ভাবে দেখতে পেলাম যে পুরোপুরি শাসক দলের যে নেতা মন্ত্রী তাদের কিন্তু জড়িয়ে, ফলে আমরা যখন যে জায়গায় মানে মিডিয়া বন্ধুরা যখন আওয়াজ তুলতে গেল, সেই জায়গার ক্ষেত্রে কিন্তু মিডিয়া বন্ধুদেরকে একটা আটকানোর চেষ্টা। একই রকম ভাবে আমাদের জেলায় যেরকম ভাবে আদিবাসী হোস্টেল, 170টা আদিবাসী হোস্টেল আছে আমাদের জেলায়, 170টা আদিবাসী হোস্টেলের মধ্যে প্রায় 100, আমার কাছে মানে যে আমার যা ডাটা কালেক্ট করা, ফলে 140টা আদিবাসী হোস্টেল এখন বন্ধ করে দিয়েছে। এমনকি যে কয়েকটা আদিবাসী হোস্টেল এখন খোলা রয়েছে সেগুলো খাতায় কাগজ কলমের চলছে, ফলে সেখানে আদিবাসী ছাত্রছাত্রীরা নেই, ফলে আদিবাসী ছাত্রছাত্রীরা পড়াশোনার থেকে বঞ্চিত হচ্ছে, যেখানে ফ্রিতে থেকে খেয়ে পড়াশোনার একটা সুযোগ পেত, তারা শিক্ষাঙ্গনে ফিরিয়ে আসার একটা মানে বার্তা দিতে পারতো, কিন্তু সেইখান থেকে তারা বঞ্চিত হচ্ছে। ফলে এমনকি এই জায়গায় একটা কলেজে যে আদিবাসী হোস্টেলটা রয়েছে আমাদের ঝালদা অচ্ছুরাম মেমোরিয়াল কলেজ, যে অচ্ছুরাম মেমোরিয়াল কলেজের যে আদিবাসী হোস্টেলটা আজকে বন্ধ করে দিয়ে সেখানে এসডিও অফিস চালাচ্ছে। ফলে এই সমস্ত ডাটা নিয়ে যখন আমরা যাচ্ছি, কিন্তু আমাদেরকে কন্ট্রোল করে দেওয়ার একটা চেষ্টা হচ্ছে। এমনকি কিছুদিন আগেও আমরা একটা দেখলাম যে আমাদের এক বিন্ডিয়া বন্ধুকে সেখানে যদি মানে কোনো রাজনৈতিক দলের নেতার বিরুদ্ধে যখন সে আওয়াজ তুলতে গেল, কিন্তু তখন তাকে কিন্তু চড় মারা হলো। কিন্তু ফলে আমরা সেই জায়গায় দাঁড়িয়ে আমরা না আমরা না জনমত গড়ে তুলতে পারলাম, না আমরা মানে মিডিয়া প্রেস ক্লাব থেকে আমরা সেরকম ভাবে সেই সাংবাদিক বন্ধুর পাশে দাঁড়াতেও পারলাম না। ফলে এটা আমাদের নিজেদের যেরকম ভাবে দুর্বলতা বা ব্যর্থতা, একই রকম ভাবে আমার জেলায় যেরকম ভাবে আজকে ধরেন এই যে দীর্ঘদিন ধরে আজকে ক্যাম্পাস বন্ধ, ফলে বহু ছাত্রছাত্রী আজকে ড্রপ আউটের সংখ্যাটা বেড়েছে, বাল্যবিবাহের সংখ্যাটা বেড়েছে, বহু ছাত্রছাত্রী রয়েছে যারা কম বয়সী ছেলে মেয়ে, যারা কেউ গ্যারেজে কাজ করছে, কেউ বা ভিন রাজ্যে কাজ করতে চলে গেছে, মানে ফলে বহু রকমের ড্রপ আউটের সংখ্যাটা বেড়েছে। এইখানে আমরা মিডিয়া বা জার্নালিজমের স্টুডেন্ট হয়ে সেই যে ছাত্রছাত্রীটাকে কি আবার শিক্ষাঙ্গনে ফিরিয়ে আনার কথা বলতে পারি, বা আমাদের যে সমস্ত আজকে যে প্রায় এই এলাকায় যেরকম ভাবে কৃষক প্রাধান্য আমাদের একটা এলাকা রয়েছে, যে কৃষক প্রাধান্য এলাকার মধ্যে আমরা সেই চাষিরা আজকে না তারা কৃষকদের ফসলের ন্যায্য মূল্যের দাম পাচ্ছে না কিছু, তারা শুধু ওই কষ্ট করে ফসল ফলাচ্ছে, ফলে আমরা সেই কৃষকদের পাশেও দাঁড়াতে পারছি না। এমনকি এই সময়কালীন
ওকে, এবার আমি বলি একটু সুব্রত, তুমি আমার ইমেল আইডিটা নাও, আর তোমরা যা তথ্য পেয়েছো প্লিজ আমার সঙ্গে শেয়ার করবে। ওকে, তুমি ডেফিনেটলি এই রিপোর্টটা আমাকে শেয়ার করবে। এবার তুমি যেরকম ভাবে আমাকে বললে, ইট সাউন্ডস লাইক আ হরর স্টোরি, মানে খুবই ভয়ঙ্কর একটা অবস্থা। তুমি যেরকম ভাবে বললে আমার সেটা মনে হলো, কিন্তু আমরা
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম, এমনকি এটাও দেখতে পাচ্ছি ধরেন, হ্যাঁ ঠিক,
আমার এটাও মনে হলো কি ইউ হ্যাভ টু আন্ডারস্ট্যান্ড তুমি কোন কাগজে বা কোন টিভিতে লেখো।
আমি এমনিতে কোনো কাগজ বা পত্রিকার সাথে যুক্ত নই এখন, আমি প্রাইমারি এই প্রথম জার্নালিজমে এডমিশন হয়েছি, বাট আমি এই তথ্যগুলো নিজে একটু কালেক্ট করার একটা সংগ্রহ করার একটা চেষ্টা করে গেছি।
একটাই আমি ভেরি ইম্পর্টেন্ট লেসন আমি এটা তোমাকে বলছি ফর অল অফ ইউ অলসো, কি there is a very fine line between activism and journalism. সাংবাদিকতা করা আর activism. I don't know the Bangla for that. Uma, would you want to help me with that?
Activist তো বলি আমরা,
বাংলায় কোনো শব্দ নেই, বাট এনিওয়ে তুমি বুঝতে পারছো, মানে অ্যাক্টিভিস্ট আর জার্নালিস্ট এটার মধ্যে একটা কিন্তু পার্থক্য আছে। তোমার দায়িত্ব অ্যাজ এ জার্নালিস্ট ইজ তুমি যখন এই ইস্যুটা রিসার্চ করছো বা এটা সম্বন্ধে তুমি লিখতে চাইছো বা রিপোর্ট করতে চাইছো, টিভিতেও প্রিন্টে you have to get the other side of the story. তুমি যে আমাকে যে কথাগুলো বললে তথ্য নিশ্চয়ই তোমার কাছে আছে, কিন্তু
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম,
ওদের কাছেও জিজ্ঞেস করা দরকার কি এটা যে হচ্ছে, আমরা যা তথ্য পাচ্ছি আপনারা একটু যদি আমাকে বোঝান কি এটা কেন হচ্ছে বা আপনাদের কি বক্তব্য, এটা কি তোমরা করতে চেষ্টা করেছো? তুমি চেষ্টা করেছো?
ম্যাম এটা নিয়ে আমরা মানে জেলা শাসক মহাশয়ের কাছে আমরা বসেছিলাম যে এই আদিবাসী হোস্টেলগুলো এরকম ভাবে বন্ধ হয়ে যাচ্ছে, ফলে ছাত্রছাত্রীদের সমস্যা হচ্ছে।
সুব্রত,
কিন্তু
সুব্রত ম্যাডাম যেটা বলছে যে ধরো সমাজকর্মী এবং সাংবাদিকদের মধ্যে একটা খুব শুকনো একটা মানে লাইন আছে। ম্যাডাম এই সমস্ত ডিটেইলস তোমার থেকে চাইছেন, তুমি ইমেলে পাঠাবে, আমরা
তুমি আমাকে ইমেলে পাঠাও and I'll talk to you separately. Would you please ensure that my email phone number is with him? সুব্রত, great question. I'd love to. আমিও নিশ্চয়ই ইচ্ছুক কি আমি এই সমস্যাটার সম্বন্ধে একটু জানি। তুমি একটু প্লিজ আমাকে জানিও। আমার ফোন নাম্বার আর ইমেল আমি তোমাকে পাঠিয়েও দিতে পারি, বা তুমি প্লিজ এই তোমার এই সংস্থা থেকে নিয়ে নাও and get in touch. And I understand the complexities of the problem. এগুলো খুবই সমস্যা, সব জায়গায় হয়, হয়েছে, হবে। তো we have to be prepared, মানে এটা কি করে আমরা এই জিনিসগুলো হ্যান্ডেল করব, নিশ্চয়ই সাংবাদিকদের মধ্যে এটা ঠিক করা দরকার কিভাবে আমরা এই জিনিসটা ট্যাকল করব। ফর নাও অন্য কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকলে আমি নেব, আদারওয়াইজ 8:30 বেজে গেছে। You have a next guest, Shankar.
So thank you Lalit, thank you Abhijit, and thank you Subrato for your questions. Rahi, you have your hands raised, so a very quick question if you have.
Rahi, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Very good evening, ma'am. I'm from Purulia, and we do have different social issues here. I just want to know which is the best platform to show like what are issues, or like to discuss about it, where we should do it. Which is the best platform?
What particular issue would you be referring
Like,
to?
ma'am, like in our colony or in our ward, like from very long time, there's a like what's it, ma'am, bunch of like garbage, like there is nothing, no dustbin and nothing, like there's no one I can talk about.
Yeah, okay.
Like and water, several water issues, and like water taps here are broken. We have many times we have reported like many people here, but no one is at all interested or bothered about it. Which is the best platform we can like cite it, or just everyone can get to know about these things?
Okay. Obviously, do you understand Bangla, Hindi, so that everybody else understands?
Yes, ma'am, I understand Bangla,
Okay.
Hindi, English.
Wonderful. तो আমার মনে হয়, and if there are people from Odisha, maybe I should speak in Hindi. तो ऐसा है कि ये जो मैंने अभी आपको presentation किया, उसमें शायद आपने देखा था कि मैंने ये कहा कि आप मुद्दा को उठाएं, ठीक जगह पे पहुंचाना चाहिए. That is true. एकदम it should go to the right place. But आप अकेले इस बारे में अगर करते हो कंप्लेन, तो शायद उतना इम्पैक्ट या उतना सीरियसली ये एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन नहीं लेगा. You know, if you do it collectively, आपके पूरे इलाके में अगर लोग मिलके एक पेटिशन करें, तो ये तो आप फिर से एक्टिविज्म का बात आ रहा है. I know it is so frustrating, ये सब घटनाएं घट रही हैं और आप कुछ कर नहीं पा रहे हैं, but as a journalist, your job is to certainly take this micro issue and you know, bring it to the attention of the authorities. आप कहीं पे लिखती हैं या do you write somewhere, or do you?
Ma'am, just started blogging.
Blogging, oh, that's a very powerful medium, by the way. Blogging, social media, vlogging, maybe you can take some pictures and put it out there. Tweeting, ये सब आप करें तो उसका जरूर impact होना चाहिए. पर मुझे लगता है आप अकेले इस बारे में करें तो it will be like a lone crusade. अकेले आप लड़ते रहेंगी for this. जिनके लिए आप लड़ रही हैं, जैसे अपने लिए तो जरूर आप लड़ रही हैं, साथ साथ जो कम्युनिटी है उसको अगर आप थोड़ा इन्वॉल्व करें कि वो भी अपना आवाज उठाएं इस बारे में, और आप उनके जो ओपिनियंस हैं, उनका जो कहना है, उनको जो असुविधा हो रही है इस गार्बेज डंप से, ये सब अगर आप मीडिया में उठाएं तो थोड़ा शायद और इम्पैक्टफुल होगा. Ultimately, you need to get the story out in a local newspaper ताकि administration देखें. और ये जो रिपोर्ट आप कीजिएगा या लोकल पेपर में जो रिपोर्ट निकलेगा, ये अकेला आपके कंप्लेंट पर नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be of the community. That will have more impact. But please blog कीजिए, tweet कीजिए, Facebook कीजिए. Those are very powerful these days. Social media आजकल बहुत ही powerful है. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Monideepa ji, and this has been probably the most interactive session we have had.
Yes, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, all of you, for making it so interesting. Great questions, all of them. Tough questions.
I'm very happy that the two questions were from students in Purulia, one from North Bengal, and another. Lalit is from which place? Lalit.
Sir, IMC Denkanal.
Oh, Lalit is from Denkanal. Great. And I know that I was talking to Dinabandhu Mahato, who's also from Purulia. So I'm very happy with Purulia being so active and vocal. And lovely to hear from Chetri as well, Abhijit, and Lalit, and Shubhruto. Lovely to interact. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, ma'am.
Students, we have 5 more sessions. We have another one coming up just now. We have 2 sessions tomorrow and another 2 the day after. So keep up with your questions and keep interacting, because the more you're interacting, the more we hear from you, the more enriched we all will be. Thank you so much, Monideepa ji. It's always a pleasure listening to you. And all the 3 sessions you had were so different from each other. So, you spoke, to 3 different batches of students, and you spoke,
differently.
Such wonderful dimensions.
Thank you so much. It was a great learning, I can tell you that. It's always wonderful to learn some more. Yeah. Thank you so much, all of you who have joined us today, the students, and Uma Shankar Pandey, Dr. Pandey, thank you very much.
We hope to have you back for our offline sessions as well, and we'll keep, pestering you for more such sessions in the future as well. Thank you so much again, Monideepa.
Thank you. And please share my email with Shubhruto particularly. He has a fascinating story.
Straight away go off to...
Dr. Pandey, can I take 30 seconds?
Yes, sir. You please introduce Mrinal.
I would like to personally, I cannot thank my friend Monideepa, but let me express my gratitude that it's a great, my dear students, Moni has been very busy in her profession, so she could not give time for this. And I believe hearing Moni is really an experience.
Thank you.
We are contemporaries, but she is our inspiration, or inspiration for many journalists. So you are lucky, and I'm grateful to Moni for agreeing to do this honors for a cause of development, mainstreaming development. We must find out a space of development. Thank you, Moni. I'm really grateful.
Thank you, all of you.
I take this
opportunity to
invite Monideepa ji to an offline session on 20th of April. So I will come back to you formally, and whoever is there in Kolkata, please drop down. I'll inform you of an offline event that we are planning in Central Calcutta on the 20th of April on television journalism maybe. So we'll hear lots from Monideepa ji. If she's available, and we'll make sure that we can, manage whatever time suits her on that particular day. Thank you so much, and we need people like you.
Thank you. Signing off for now. Thanks very much.